Hi, Shaz Nawaz here, the Profits Wizard, and in this video I'm going to share with you 5 numbers you should and must be tracking as a business owner. And apart from the first one, the other 4 are not on your accounts, on your balance sheet, on your profit and loss account. These are numbers you should be measuring outside your accounts because they're not going to appear on your accounts. So the first one, and the really obvious one, is your margins. So start off with your gross margin. This is extremely important because it shows you how much profit you're making gross after your cost of sales. And a lot of businesses don't track this number, let alone the other 4 I'm going to share with you, and I think it's extremely important that you do. So it's a quick example. Let's say you're selling cakes and the cost of buying the cakes, plus if you're doing deliveries, the cost of deliveries, if you've got your own cars, petrol, fuel, all that stuff, all of that is a cost of sale because it's a variable cost depending on how much you sell. So you work at your turnover, take away all those direct costs, that gives you your gross profit margin, and then you ought to be thinking about, okay, let me benchmark these numbers against other businesses in my sector, both regionally and nationally, and look at where your margins are and then think about how you can improve and increase those margins. Alongside that, depending on the types of cakes you're selling, you might find certain cakes make more margin than others. So then you should look at vertically, look at the different types of products you've got and look at the margins you make on each of those products, and then you ought to be thinking about, okay, how can we sell more of the ones that we're making a higher margin on, and B, the ones that we're making a lower margin on, how can we increase the margin of those? And if you increase your gross profit margin, your net profit margin is going to go through the roof because all the other costs below generally are general overhead like rent, rates, repairs, maintenance, all the other kind of costs you've got in your office. Most of them are fixed, they're not going to go up. So when your gross margin goes up, most of that is translated down to your net profit. Number 1. Second is cost per lead. A lot of businesses, especially small businesses, don't track this whatsoever, and this is a very important number. So it's for you to work out how much it costs you to generate a lead. An example, you do a certain form of advertising, let's just call it Facebook advertising, and you spend £10,000 and you get 10 leads from that. That means every single lead has cost you £1,000. You ought to know what that number is so that you can then work out how much it's costing you to acquire and win a customer. Linked with that, you then work out how much it costs you to actually acquire a customer. So it costs you £1,000 to get them from Facebook, then all of your sales workflow or your sales pipeline in terms of the steps and the actions that you take, work out how much it costs you to convert them from a lead to a customer. That will then show you what the cost of each lead and customer is. That's extremely important for 2 reasons. One, you can then work out how much can you afford to spend on getting a lead and on getting a customer, and secondly, you can work out what a customer is worth to you, and that's the third number you should be tracking. This is the lifetime value of a customer. So we'll stick to our example of £1,000 to get a lead, and let's say another £500 to win that lead as a customer. So it costs you £1,500 to get a customer. Now we work out, okay, how much is a customer worth to us? And you say in your business, a customer is worth £1,000 a year to you. So it's not worth spending £1,000 to it's not worth spending £1,500 to get a customer worth £1,000. But then you say it's £1,000 per year and they stay with you for 5 years. So now the lifetime value, which is your third metric, is £5,000 and you're spending £1,500 to get the customer. Is that worth it? Well, it depends on your other cost associated with servicing that customer to get the £5,000 sales over 5 years, but generally speaking it's going to be worth it because you're going to then extend the conversation further and say, all right, I get £5,000 from this person, how can I extend the lifetime value from 5 years to 6 years to 7 years to 8 years longer? Secondly, how can I increase my prices throughout those 5, 7, 8 years so the person or the customer is worth a lot more? how can I now cross-sell other services? So if they're buying one thing, what other things do we sell that they can buy? Okay, so to increase the value even further. And then on top of that, how can we now get referrals from them? So we get even more customers like them, especially if they're good customers, to enhance the value even more. So now you can see how the second one, cost per lead, and the lifetime value interconnect. And then the fourth one is looking at every single item that you sell and then working out the net gross profit, net profit margin on those, and then working out which one of those you can afford to sell at a cheaper price in order to get a customer to then sell the more expensive stuff to them. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a cash and carry turning over quite a few £1,000,000. We worked out certain staple products that his customers were buying. He was supplying restaurants and takeaways, so stuff like oil, rice, flour they were buying. So we worked out if we can sell those at a very competitive rate, those takeaways and restaurants will come to buy the goods from him. Then what we do is say, okay, what other products do they buy that they need but they're not buying from us, which are higher margin? So I'll give you an example. So let's say pizza boxes, let's say cleaning equipment, let's say drinks and beverages. Again, I'm just making up the example here. Those are, let's say, higher margin. So even though the lower margin ones aren't making that much profit, when you add in the higher margin stuff, the margins per customer go up. So that's the fourth one. And the fifth one is working out the average value of a customer per year. So like I said to you, £1,000 and then per customer per year, and then over 5 years it would be 5,000. Here you ought to be thinking about, if a customer, if you want a customer and we're spending £1,000 on Facebook to get a lead, £500 to convert them, what do we want the average value of that customer to be per year? So now you're working backwards, you're reverse engineering. You might say £2,000. Then you look at all your different types of marketing and say the best customers who come to our market or who buy from us are the ones who we signed up through some trade association or through a trade fair or through networking or through Facebook, LinkedIn, other forms of social media, direct mail, TV, radio, wherever. So that's where we get our best customer from. So let's now focus on that and see how we can increase the average value of customers. So the 5 numbers I've shared with you: gross margins, which you can get from your accounts, cost per lead, lifetime value of customer, profit per different items that you're selling, and the average value of your customer. If you track those 5 numbers, what you're going to see is after a while, not only are you going to have good data, but your profits will start going up, and it's going to be a worthwhile exercise. Hope you find this video useful. Bye.